Welcome to Monologue Dialogue, the show where words have meaning, moments linger, and each week we explore a new monologue in pop culture to discover the why behind the what of what the narrative is truly saying. I'm your host, Paul Nicolosi, and today Marco and I journey to the far-off distant land of Middle Earth. And no, we're not journeying to explore a scene of sorcery or swordplay, but one of something so much more powerful: hope. Today we explore Samwise Gamgee's powerful statements at the end of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So, grab your cloak, grab your lantern, and let's walk with Sam a while. This is Monologue Dialogue. And welcome back to Monologue Dialogue, the podcast where we cover various monologues from pop culture, whether it be cinema, theater, literature, the whole nine yards. We try to cover a wide spectrum. I am your host, Paul Nicolosi.
And I'm Marco Saldana.
Marco, first off, I want to thank you for joining us again today. It really is wonderful to be on this adventure with you. And today, when we were discussing a little bit in our show notes before, we were discussing some topics, and you pulled one out that I hadn't thought of. It wasn't even on my radar. Do you want to share what we have going on with the audience?
Yeah, we were discussing a few things and spitballing, and all of a sudden, when it comes to great monologues, the inner nerd in me took off, and I was like, hey, how about Samwise Gamgee, Lord of the Rings, specifically part two, and he has a great monologue with Frodo in the midst of all of that. And then it kind of took off from there. You liked it after a bit of a little clip there.
Yeah. Full disclosure for the rest of the audience, I haven't seen a Lord of the Rings film in potentially 10 years. I'm sorry to admit it. It's not that I don't dislike the film or the franchise. I'm an absolute fan of Lord of the Rings. It's just one of those things that you have to commit to. And it's you know how that can be, right? Hey, I could do my taxes, I could do homework. I should probably be doing homework. But no, you know what? I'm just gonna commit an entire day to Peter Jackson's saga, The Lord of the Rings, and that's only counting the core films, not necessarily bringing in the Hobbit, right? So
Yeah. The additional prequels.
it's a big commitment. I have commitment issues. We don't have to talk about it. But what we are going to talk about today is specifically Samwise Gamgee's speech at the end of The Two Towers. It's pretty emotional stuff. You had me hooked as soon as you showed me the clip. Why don't you go ahead and expand on what drew this to you today?
Well, Samwise, is main character in Lord of the Rings, but not the main protagonist. And there's just a lot of uh that goes on in the story, and there's a lot of obvious dark points, particularly for Frodo. He has many lapses throughout, and unless you're aware of these lapses, this is where these great monologues comes in. Samwise has his own in the second movie. The first one, I believe, Gandalf has his own little moment in the sun with Frodo as well. In the third one, you don't get to see another speech. You see other folks having speeches, but here, Samwise, touches upon just little bits of everything that everybody relates to. And like when I spoke to you last time, there's certain pieces of movie or lines in a movie that stick out to you at a certain point in your life. And Samwise in this particular clip, it captures everything. When he starts talking, hey, you know this is we shouldn't even be here. By rights, this is all wrong. And he just opens up from there, and he just starts talking to Frodo. But then he changes the narrative. It's like, we're here though. You got to make the best of it. There is good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. And then he gives Frodo that the ounce of energy that he needed to hear. That anybody, give him that attaboy. Hey, you got this. You can do this. And it speaks to everybody at some point, which is why it popped up into my head. I was like, hey, how about Samwise?
Yeah, and I'm glad you thought of it. You spoke on other people who have had speeches in this series, right? And a good chunk of them tend to be, and this might just be looking back on it from such a long gap in time. Frodo tends to have his moments of doubt, we'll say. He definitely has more than one, we'll say.
Yes, he waxes and wanes. Yes.
Yeah. And thankfully, he always has somebody in his life or in the room at that particular moment who has the right thing to say to him. So you mentioned Gandalf says things, and I'm paraphrasing because, squirrel brain, it's been a long time, but, Bilbo found the ring and he was meant to have it, and therefore you were meant to have it, and that's a beautiful thing. Um, and it's it's words of reassurance that can easily translate to the audience at that particular time. Because when you go into a movie, it's not like you go in a fresh slate, right? Everyone's got something
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. And we may not have to burden this horrible ring that's so powerful that everyone wants it and to seize control and are willing to kill you for it. We're not all dealing with that. But the the idea still translates. I got bills I gotta pay. I have responsibilities. I gotta feed the kids. I gotta do my laundry. And it's like, yeah, but you were meant to have those kids, and you were meant to do that laundry. And I know it's kind of a loose translation there, but to me, I think that's why these monologues are so powerful. We were kind of talking about, wouldn't it be fun if one of us acts out the scene? And I think I drew the short straw, probably the shortest of straws, because, like I said, I haven't seen this film in 10 years or so. So let me go ahead.
Big game.
This is what I really wanted to do. I just wanted to show off that I used to be an actor and I can act. And so let me go ahead and pull up the scene, and I will
See how it goes.
horribly,
Leave it
excuse
to the
me.
audience.
I should say, let me pull up the script, and we'll leave it to the audience. And feel free to leave a comment about how I did and whether or not I did a good enough job. And a shameless plug, call to action there. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and bring ourselves to the scene. Right, it's the Battle of. Oh, you're gonna have to help me out on that one.
Skillieth.
Yeah,
Also.
Skillieth. The audience is starting to figure out I can't read or write very good. Uh,
No,
it's a
I'm
battle
just
of,
that much bigger nerd, sir. Despite
uh,
your Marvel Comics background.
you know what? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for giving me the
I
out.
said it.
Thank you for
Yeah, you're
giving me the out.
welcome.
It's the battle of Skillieth, and all his friends are there, right? You got Merry and Pippin riding the tree folk, and this battle is just, it's hard fought. People are dying, people are losing everything they've ever known to them. And Frodo, of course, is having another one of his moments of doubt where he sits there and he says, I could use the ring and make this a hell of a lot easier. And
I Pippin were somewhere else, but
don't tell me that. Don't tell me
yeah,
that.
totally miles apart. You're talking a different theater of battle.
I
What?
could
Go on.
swear.
You're.
I
Sorry.
could swear in the clip we watched. This is why it's so confusing for me to watch a Peter Jackson film, because it's like, are they there or are they like miles away?
Well,
Oh,
if you'd seen the movie recently, but hey,
okay.
do I know?
All right. Okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
you were going to pull Lord of the Rings out today. I should have anticipated this. So, we're setting the scene. It's the Battle of Osgiliath. Did I say that right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. And Merry and Pippin, they are not there. They're nowhere to be
Not there.
seen.
Yeah.
No, not. They're riding tree folk, but they're not
Yes,
there.
this is true.
They're
They're
not
not riding tree folk yet.
there. They're not there, and that clip of them in the scene has no business being there. I have purged it from my mind, and so should you. And Frodo's having his moment of doubt, and he's saying, "What's the point? This is horrible. This is war. It's hell. It's the absolute worst thing he's ever seen up until this point." And Sam is there with these lines that I will masterfully present to you today.
Yeah, I gotta. Seriously.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, because they were holding on to something. This is where Frodo jumps out. Do you want to be Frodo?
Oh, excuse me. What are we holding on to, Sam?
Oh man, you nailed it. That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
I was like, finally, a little bit of Scottish in there.
Sam, no.
Just a little. Just a little.
Just
not a lot.
A tinge
just
of Scottish. Ugh. I don't know if I should be. I don't know if I should be butchering the Scottish.
I mean, he sounded like yeah, I don't know, schoolboy English there.
Maybe it's because. Is it wrong of me to think of them as school? I mean, they're short people. They're short little men with accents. Why can I not?
Even
Maybe subconsciously my
that
brain
borders on
just
diversity inclusion criteria. Are you discriminating against hobbits, sir?
Well, this is getting cut. Breaking news: Paul Nicolosi, bigot against hobbits. News at 11. Yeah, so that was fun. But
valiant attempt.
Thank you. Just make sure you spell my name right on the Oscar. So why did we do this, right? So we're trying to tee up the emotional grab to this. To me, what really resonates with me personally when I hear this, and this is also fairly comparative to what goes on in the world today, we're very quick as a society to become very doomer generation, right? We just assume everything's screwed, and Sam is here to kind of say, you know what, there's always evil, but it's a passing darkness. It washes away. Whereas there's good in this world, and it's worth hanging on to, and it's worth nurturing. What is your input on this? Why did you bring this to the table today?
Well, just like the scene right before the speech happens, you have that Nazgul about to snatch Frodo. He's all entranced by the power of the ring, and then he gets pulled away at the last second by Samwise, and Frodo, it just in that moment of confusion and desperation, holds a knife to Samwise's throat. I think we've all felt a little bit of that way, just felt overwhelmed to the point where you snap, those closest to you. I know I've been there myself a few times.
Really? Would you care to mention a time where that's ever happened, Marco?
Maybe in some other episodes. I may or may not have not been the best of friends.
All right, so up into this very recording right now, you have never pulled a knife on anyone close to you out of frustration.
Recently, no.
Not that you're willing to admit on the internet. Got it. Okay.
Not yet. At least not without explaining some context behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, but back onto the story.
Of course.
So you got Frodo freaking out, and Samwise is like, "Yo, hey, take it easy. It's me. It's you, Sam. Hey, and he's trying to calm him down, and Frodo's like, what the hell are we doing here? And Samwise agrees. That's what I love about the intro of that monologue. He's like, "You're so right. We shouldn't even be here. By rights, this is all wrong." You know, I think we've all felt that way. We shouldn't be here, but we are. Uh, what are we gonna do now? Everything just seems so bleak. It's terrible. And then Frodo, I mean, not Frodo, Samwise within that same story references the stories of the past, the great stories, full of wonder and darkness that they were. How could you want to know the ending when it was full of so much terror and terrible things? And that's what I love about that monologue, because it speaks to everybody. We've all been there, a dark point, and you just don't want to go forward. You just to go left, you go right, it doesn't matter. It's gonna suck either way.
Yeah. And
But
I'm actually glad you mentioned the statement specifically about, by all rights, we shouldn't be here. There is a
comments.
there is a little bit of a meta narrative to when this, not only when this came out, but to the source material, right? You have Tolkien, who fought in World War One. I believe he was around for World War Two, or he may have actually. Did he fight in that?
I don't know.
You don't know. Quick, we should do a quick wiki check on that.
Let's reference that.
You think you
Yeah.
think that we would have done research, but not
For
here,
sure,
not off.
World War One.
Yeah,
Which was arguably a terrible conflict. A lot of people died.
yeah.
Terrible.
So you have Tolkien, who's taken this horror and this trauma, and he's turned it into one of, if not the greatest fantasy series of all time. And he's in this commentary, he's explaining that, yeah, we're living through terrible times, and by all rights, we don't belong here. We're not supposed to be in this situation, and but we are anyway. And this is, we're still the people in the key position, in the prime position, who can make a difference and can still fight for the goodness of this world. Do you think there was a meta narrative going on as well at the time of the release of these? We were in our early conflicts of Iraq and Afghanistan, if I can remember correctly. Am I drawing a
Well,
conclusion that
you,
maybe doesn't
you,
belong?
you could you could you could definitely spin it that way, but to those that have served and been in boots, and for those that have uh, been around when bullets go past your head, it's all that political stuff goes out the window. At the end, the person who's next to you is the one who matters the most. And in
Absolutely.
turn here, it's at this point in the movie, it's just them two, you know? And it's funny because at the end of that particular film, you see them walking through the forest after all is said and done. And then they're talking about the great stories. I wonder if we'll be put in stories,
Mm.
and then yeah, and then Samwise like, oh, I want to hear about Frodo. He's the most famous of hobbits, and Frodo flips it on him. He's like, no, I want to hear about Samwise. Sam. I don't know if he says Samwise the Great, but something along those lines, Samwise, and Frodo wouldn't have gotten far without Sam, which is very true. And again, we come back to that bond of brotherhood in the trenches. Frodo and Sam go through a lot, and through that whole experience, it was just them two for most of the the series.
Yeah.
You know,
Without a doubt, everybody, regardless of what trenches they're in or whatever they're facing in this world, everybody needs and deserves a Samwise. And I'm glad I found mine. I'm glad I found mine right here with me on this great journey of podcasting.
Yeah, just slip out of line now. He'll smack you with a frying pan.
But he won't pull a knife on you. He would never
Uh,
do that.
I mean, no, no, not in this particular point of series.
Not this year.
No, not this year.
All right, good. Good, good. I'm good for at least 8 more months. I can math.
To see Sam pull back Frodo from the one of many abysses that he happens to find himself in, and that sets up the rest of the what happens later on in the movie, literally speaking. But think about it. It's just you know what they were going through and what people go through. Uh, how the concept of a buddy or a friend, brother, sister, parent, or someone special just pulling you back from that precipice and saying, "Hey, I know it sucks, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna figure this out. Keep going. We got to keep going. There's no other way. We can't go back." You know, and then that really for me is what stands out the most about that particular speech of the Samwise Gamgee. And then Frodo refers to him as Samwise the Brave afterwards, not the Great, Samwise the Brave. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, but what do you think on the Tolkien piece? Because for me, I know Lord of the Rings because I watched the movies. I can watch them 1,000 times and watch them 1,000 more. And for me, it's like watching it again and again and again. I never get tired of it.
Yeah, you
You know
just
more
you just
about
have it on in the
author
background 24/7. It's actually on right now in the other room for you.
sometimes. Yeah,
Yes.
helps be sweet.
I think that Tolkien was, as I mentioned before, he was drawing from the traumas of war to create something fantastical. I think that's what he set out to do when he wrote the Lord of the Rings, and of course the associated stories that went along with them. In this particular scene, I know this speech doesn't really take place in the book, The Two Towers. This was the script writers who had kind of taken a lot of elements of the three books and created this dialogue, excuse me, monologue. We're a monologue
Yeah, I see what you did
podcast. We are not a,
there.
we have the
You don't
dialogue about
do
the
dialogues.
monologues. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, they borrowed a lot of his elements and a lot of his history, and that's where the creation of this speech came from. It did piecemeal different words that Samwise had said throughout the books, but it really leaned more from it was really more of a creation of these three script writers, and that to me is almost transformative in a way to be able to pull from the overall encompassing uh, um, narrative of this book series, this beloved book series, to be able to sum it into this this quick 3-minute speech, beautifully delivered by Sam Aston, by the or Sean Aston, Samwise Gamgee, Sean Aston, Rudy. I know him as Rudy. Rudy. Anyway,
Rudy.
uh,
Rudy.
yeah,
Good movie too, by the way.
that's a monologue in itself, right? Just chanting Rudy over
It
and
really
over again.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Sean Astin beautifully portrayed this raw emotion, which we really have to revisit his performance on this
But
next. But
I didn't know it didn't exist in the book.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I learned that in the very brief research we did prior to jumping on this call, and
I would dare say Hollywood got it right on that.
yeah, for
Pretty
sure.
well.
Yeah, you can tell they handled the source material with a lot of love and a lot of care, and
Yeah.
and clearly, I mean, it's one of the greatest movie series of all time. Definitely is a contender up against Star Wars and other major trilogies.
Slow
Uh,
down.
oh yeah,
Totally different world.
I said it's a contender. I didn't say it beats it, but it can get in the ring.
Just-
It can step in the ring.
Don't even go there, sir. That's a whole
uh,
thing.
so I have two trains of thought on this, right? One, you have the transformative piece, being able to take this, and does it stand as the soul of this one particular film, or does it become the soul of all three of Peter Jackson's films, right? For me, this is because it's drawing from that source material of all three, and it's a creation of the three. To me, I view this scene as the heart and soul. It's the why behind we're investing an entire day to watch a Lord of the Rings marathon, or why Marco has it playing in the background of his house 24/7, right? It's because that is the central uh, theme and mood that sets the rest of the series up for success. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I like that you call it the heart and soul. You know, it does tie all three movies together. This is the first scene where Sam and Frodo, you see their bond forming as they progress through the story. At least from the movie side of it. I don't know how it is in the actual book series, but I feel like a lot of fans are gonna be like, "Why? How come you haven't read the book? What kind of fan are you?" I'm sorry, I don't. I don't read. I prefer movies. But uh, yeah, I really do. I have to agree with you on that. It does bring all three together. You know, and you know, for anyone that hasn't seen Lord of the Rings, there are a few out there. You know, then you have this great piece that brings it all together. It tells you the why, like you said, why we're doing this, why we're on this adventure, why we're even bothering to go all the way to Mordor, you know, and it's just that segue that I said about pulling him back from the abyss, and it literally happens in the third movie, you know, where Frodo just completely submits to it, and because of how Samwise views the world and how he sees his bond with Frodo, that friendship, you know, he does everything he can to bring Frodo back from the great beyond, so to speak. Because
Sure.
he almost pays for it.
Yeah. And a lot of that goes into my second train of thought, which is Sean Astin's performance in this. Something else you should consider about these films. I mean, they weren't just shot in a day, they weren't shot in a month, they were shot over years apart and out of order, right? So could you imagine if this was the first thing they shot where they haven't experienced as actors, they haven't experienced the raw emotion, they're familiar with the source material and they're familiar with the dialogue that they're gonna be exchanging when they eventually get to shooting that piece for that day, but virtually none of the heartache and the hardness of the movie The Two Towers had been shot yet. And so Sean Astin is drawing from, I can only imagine what he's drawing from when he's performing this piece the way that he does. That to me is just it's fascinating. It's a fascinating character study in and of itself, and I think it's worth mentioning on this platform.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree.
And Marco, I got to be honest with you. I think it'd be real fun since we were talking about Sean Astin's performance, and I don't know about you. I don't think anybody else could have filled those shoes for this
Yeah,
film.
big
Can
shoes.
can you think of anybody? Absolutely anybody?
You know, it's how the actors. It really takes a lot of special skill to portray emotion, to put themselves into the skin of another human being, and to portray that. And I know, you know, Rudy all the way.
Yeah, for sure, Rudy. Uh,
It,
you don't even think I did a good enough job as a British schoolboy?
it took it to you know, you did your best. You gave it the old college try. You did. You really did. And
Mark,
could you have done it any other
Oh,
context.
I could take it further.
Could you?
I could take it so much further. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
You know what? Let's go ahead and perform this for you now. This is my rendition of that beautiful scene that Sean Astin masterfully crafted for us, except I'm going to put a little spin on it as Barney the dinosaur. Here we go.
My palms are sweating already.
Knees weak. Mom's spaghetti.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger, they were. But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. Because they were holding on to something.
What were they holding on to, Sam?
That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
Do the party giggle. There it is. Oh God. And you wonder why or why not. Or
Listen,
why
I'm just
can't you?
saying, look, I know Sean Astin, like he broke the mold in his performance, but you have to admit that Barney the dinosaur he could step in the ring, kind of like a Lord of the Rings.
You
and
know
Star
what?
Wars, right?
I would love to see Barney and Kermit Frog dialogue. Go at it. That would be interesting.
Oh, I hate to tell you this, but my Kermit's not as good. How about yours?
No, nah, I don't do voices.
No,
Only my own, sir.
only your
Yeah.
own voice. You
Nah.
can't. You can't. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and cut it off there. I think this was a productive episode. What do you think, Marco?
It was truly enlightening, given the fact that, hey, I had a spontaneous idea. Hey, let's talk about Samwise Gamgee here.
Yeah, I have a great appreciation that you actually brought this to the table because, if anything, you just made me want to commit a day I don't have to watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And maybe I'll even consider watching The Hobbit, the children's book that they cut into 3 long movies when they didn't need to, but they did anyway because money. And we could have a whole episode about that. But with that being said, once again, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching Monologue Dialogue, the podcast where we cover great monologues and podcasts, in pop culture history. And if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment. We read them. Trust me, there aren't many. So it doesn't waste a whole lot of my time, but let's go ahead and kick up some of those comments and just let us know what you want us to cover. Give us a specific actor and their various roles, or if you have a specific role in general. We would love some of that feedback and see what we can dive into. Hopefully you can give us something that I've never seen before so I can watch it and really challenge myself. Marco, do you
The Barney voice.
the Barney voice, that can't be a regular feature. That would be too much. But with that being said, Marco, do you have anything you want to share with the audience before we head out?
No. Thank you for having me. It was fun talking about something that I'm personally always very excited about. And yes, hit like and subscribe. Let us know how we can improve and make things better and what we should talk about for next time.
Yeah, that would really save us from an hour of sitting around on a call, going back and forth about what the hell are we going to talk about this time. Anyway, with that being said, we love y'all and take care.
Get you later.